Hello, and welcome to Popcorn and Protagonists. Today we're going to be talking about South Park, Season 27, Episode 1, the Donald Trump episode.
Its actual title is Sermon on the Mound, I believe.
It's known as the Donald Trump episode. That's what everyone's been calling it. I don't think I've heard anyone refer to it
by its title
as the Sermon on the Mound.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But it's been a big source of controversy, and we thought it'd be fun to talk about today.
I feel like the odds of anybody that would be watching this conversation that are interested in the subject matter are very low that they wouldn't know the history of South Park to begin with. But I guess for anyone who maybe doesn't, figured we'd just go over the brief history of how it came into being. It was developed from two short animated films in 1992 and 1995, both coincidentally entitled The Spirit of Christmas, which is kind of hilarious. The latter of those two, the one released in 1995, was one of the very first viral internet videos ever. And that's what, led to the production of South Park as we know it today. That premiered on August 13th of 1997 on Comedy Central. The first episode, of course, was entitled Cartman Gets an Anal Probe, and as we all know, the creators are Trey Parker, who is basically embodies... Stan is supposed to be the young embodiment of him, as well as Kyle is supposed to be the young embodiment of the co-creator, Matt Stone.
So I got to chime in. The very first time I ever saw South Park, I was stoned out of my mind on hash, and I saw Cartman Gets an Anal Probe. And I think I laughed so hard I almost pissed myself. I was laughing so hard I was falling off the couch, and my stomach was hurting. Like, I was literally in pain because I was laughing so hard.
And that is when the animation was really rudimentary
It was, but it was so funny.
And that's it, right? Exactly. It's funny because my high school girlfriend, her older sister's boyfriend at the time was the one who introduced me to South Park.
Yeah.
That was my first introduction to the show. And same thing, right? The shock value that they're known for, that's the amazing thing about it, is that, the series quickly became infamous for that shock value in their comedy. The profanity and the dark, often bizarre humor that they use, right? That satire, satirizes a large range of people and current event subject matter. And due to just how extreme they're willing to be, obviously became very successful almost instantaneously.
Now, the funny thing is this South Park episode has caused a lot of controversy among a lot of conservative, Republican Americans. They're really clutching their pearls about this one. And, it's really funny because the rest of the world's kind of moved on. Back in the day when South Park first came out, a lot of Christians and conservative groups were very upset at how offensive it was, and then
they wrote letters, they protested the show.
But as the years went on, it almost became par for course. The sky is blue, South Park's offensive, and the world kind of moved on, and no one really seems to care as much anymore.
And I think they got a license to write about whatever they want to write about because they don't take exemptions on anybody, right? If they'll call bullshit on whatever they see that they feel like is unjust. And it's not that they just go after Republicans, or in Canada they'd be called conservatives, which is what they're all upset about nowadays, but they go after Democrats and or, liberals, as they're called in Canada, just as much. It just depends on what the person's doing.
Their satire is very democratic.
Exactly.
They go after everyone equally. It's an equal playing field. And that's why I always thought, no matter how cruel or how mean they get, there's a sort of a fairness to it that I really enjoy. And they don't just go after, they don't just go after conservatives. They go after everybody, the whole political spectrum. Well, anything and anybody, any celebrity, any politician, they are fearless. And obviously because they went out of their way to humiliate Donald Trump so thoroughly with this episode. And it's funny too, because I remember the White House making a statement somewhere along the lines of it's an irrelevant show that's trying to get attention, hanging on by a thread.
Which is, of course, why they're talking about it.
Yeah, of course. It's such an irrelevant show that they're talking about it. And it's such an irrelevant show that they just renegotiated with Paramount for
a $1.5 billion deal.
$1.5 billion deal.
Yes.
So, that's so irrelevant, obviously. But, they're still chugging along. They might be making that show when we're when we're old men. I mean, it doesn't seem to ever stop.
I wouldn't be surprised. Well, right now, that new deal that they made with Paramount took effect of July 21st, 2025, and then we saw the season premiere was shortly released after that.
Yeah.
It's actually a 5-year deal, so that's going to take them to 2030, but they are only obligated to deliver 10 episodes per season. So that's still going to be running until 2030 at least.
At least.
According to this current deal.
And it won't stop. It'll just keep going. It'll just keep going. Like, they're going to be like old liver-spotted men, and they're still going to be making that show.
Yeah.
They'll probably get, like, robots to make it at that point, and they'll just sort of lay back and dictate it to them or something.
There has been definitely a precedent set for the demand from the audience for...
Yeah.
Adult-orientated cartoons. You look at the longevity of The Simpsons, American Dad, not American Dad, Family Guy was what I meant to say. Yeah, The Simpsons and Family Guy, and I mean, Rick and Morty's been around for a while now too. Obviously, not the kind of longevity as like The Simpsons, but there is that expectation from the audience of once you establish something that is really successful and people have embraced. It could be around for 30 plus years. Who knows, right? Like, I mean, they're not even that far off at this point. So,
yeah. And I mean, one of the things I loved about the episode is that, so they did this thing with the design of Donald Trump that is, he's got the flappy head like the Canadians or foreign people. But the interesting thing is that he has the same voice, the same attitude, the same behaviors as the Saddam Hussein character from Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, the first South Park movie.
Yes.
And he's Satan's boyfriend, and they have scenes with them in bed together.
Those parallels are definitely undeniable, for sure. And Saddam Hussein does appear in a number of episodes throughout the seasons after that Bigger, Longer, and Uncut as well.
But remember what I was pointing out to you is that I don't think it's a coincidence, because who is Saddam Hussein? Saddam Hussein was someone who I think was originally propped up by Donald Rumsfeld and all those crooked Republicans, and then went off script and became a problem for them. So you have Saddam Hussein, who is American-backed, authoritarian, dictator, and what is Donald Trump? Donald Trump is a American-supported authoritarian dictator, basically. Like, I don't think they're making any bones about that. That's why they used exactly the same design and
the exact same voice
and the
Saddam
same scenario.
Hussein.
It's like, come on, guy.
Yeah,
relax.
exactly. Right? Hey, relax, buddy. Yeah, exactly. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
And it is brave. I agree. They are unbelievably brave. Trey Parker and Matt Stone both. I mean, those guys are brilliant in their social commentary, the way that they write their comedy, and the points that it makes, the political points it makes, underneath all of the shock value, extreme, sometimes disgusting jokes that are the facade for, the front of those points. But yeah, I agree, man. I mean, like, they live in that country, and this is the elected leader of the country they live in currently. And they could be killed for it. The Republican Party and it's some of those really extremely, identifying as like right-wing people. I mean, there's been historical documentation of some really crazy things happening. So to suggest that their safety could be at danger, I don't think is too far-fetched at all.
Well, just to reference something from before, to depict an image of Muhammad is considered heresy in the Islamic religion.
Yep.
And they depicted Muhammad in an episode of South Park in the past, and they actually had death threats against them. Like, they had to fortify their house, the compound they live in, and all kinds of crazy stuff. So
not the first time they've had to deal with it.
No.
Yeah.
But we also have to talk about the other slap in Donald Trump's face, which was the live action advert that I don't know was produced either by AI or it was a deep fake.
It was a deep fake. That was an actual actor.
Yeah, so it's some sort of deep fake.
I saw behind the scenes shots of the crew doing it and stuff.
With Donald Trump's face, and it's like Donald Trump will be there for you, and he's slowly like trudging through the desert, like he's struggling for America or something like that. But as he trudges through the desert, he's slowly removing like all of his clothes until he's completely naked. And then one of the final shots is him looking down, and his shriveled, bizarre looking penis with googly eyes is looking at him.
It was really hard to watch. Yeah, it was really hard to watch.
But I mean, they used to shy away because they were tired of feeding into the monster that is Donald Trump. Because I mean, they do that thing where they flood the zone. So any news is good news, even if it's bad news. If people are talking about Trump, even if it's a conspiracy theory or it's not true or it's anti-Trump, it's still, people are still talking about him, right? So they would often shy away from getting political with him, and they did that whole Mr. Garrison thing where he was pretending to be Trump.
Yes, where he was the representation of Trump. Mr. Garrison's an interesting character too, right? Because I think that in a lot of ways he seems to embody, like, you know, in the early days of South Park, he was just this lunatic, teacher for the boys. But as the evolution of the show went on, it does seem like his character kind of embodies all of those negative, volatile, you know, really aggressive parts of American society. So yeah, it was really interesting when they started going political after those things. Like the first one I ever remember was the one that was called Douche and Turd. It was season 8, episode 1, and that was the first time that I can recall, if I'm not mistaken, them going after the political system. And it was about a election at the boys' school about what the new school mascot was going to be. But it was a very thinly veiled comparison to the upcoming election at the time, right? So yeah, it's
but they're just getting right in there. They're not being subtle. They're not sort of diverging it by having Mr. Garrison being a representation of Trump or having this alternate personality.
Because they go to knock on his door looking for him, and he's hanging out there with his partner, and he's like, what? I don't do that anymore.
I'm watching TV.
Yeah. It was pretty funny how they did make that shift, even though he has been a representation of Trump previously, like an avatar of sorts for that character.
And it's like the gloves are off.
Yeah.
They're not fucking around. I mean, you said the second episode, which I actually haven't seen, is about ICE. It's parodying ICE.
Yes, and I also am really looking forward to seeing that. I haven't seen it yet either, but just based on the screenshots and the stills I've seen, it's clearly, the screenshot I saw was, a number of ICE, I guess the technical title is probably ICE agents, but they're douchebags, ICE douchebags, and they're sitting in a car and they've all got their masks on and stuff, right? And you could see it on like the guy's vest or whatever, so that's what episode 2 is going to be about. And I'm really interested to see what they have to say, because I think that Trey Parker and Matt Stone are both very intelligent people, and I'm sure that they can see just as well as many people around the world that people's basic human rights are being violated, and that's not okay for many reasons. And you're right, the gloves are off, and it's cool that they're just like willing to kind of call them on all of the insanity.
Well, they're using their talent for laser guided satire so effectively. I was reading that ICE actually took a screenshot from that episode and used it to promote ICE, and then they responded by saying eat a bag of dicks. I think, it was eat a bag of dicks.
South Park responded that way?
Yeah, that's what they said.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a bit of a culture war going on in the States. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
I'm being sarcastic. Yeah. We all noticed this. It's like a fucking Black Mirror episode.
Yeah.
But, no, and I think that it's great, and I hope they continue doing that, because I think comedy is so...
It is.
Effective and such a potent... speech. Way to get free speech out there, and it is protected. Like, it's something that Americans have an understanding that comedy is sacred. You can't go after them.
That's right.
Like, he's gone after so many people, but he hasn't gone after the comedians. He's said threatening things, but he hasn't done anything yet.
Well, they did get Colbert canceled, so
yeah. But I mean, that was only because Colbert was basically calling a spade when it was basically they got a bribe, or they bribed the president by paying him off so that they would get their license renewed for their new merger or something like that. Yeah. I mean, it was basically a bribe, and he said that. And I don't think it was him that got him canceled. I think he pissed off Paramount.
Yeah, it seemed like it, because that's their parent company, I believe.
Yeah, and he was just like, he went a little too far, and they got angry about it, basically. I think they would find that insulting. So, I mean, I think comedians are safe. I think if they actually, I think Americans even conservative Americans would start getting up in arms if they went after the satirists and the comedians.
You would hope so. You would hope that would be a line in the sand. But I mean, there's been so many lines that have been crossed already since January 20th, right? So it's hard to say.
But I mean,
but I do agree with you. That's a very important piece of the democratic process, right? Or any culture around the world really is having that counterpoint to whatever the main narrative, right, is.
You can go back to ancient Rome, and there was satirical graffiti being drawn in the Forum.
And if that counterpoint is removed and then you just have an echo chamber of propaganda, that's wherein the situation becomes dangerous.
But you know that those comedians and artists are not going to stay quiet. If they start going after them, it's going to get ugly. Yeah. Like, did you hear that other thing? Now, this is just tangentially related, and I don't want to go too far down another rabbit hole.
Okay.
But apparently the Constitution, the American Library of Congress, you can read the Constitution on there, and since he fired the last person who was running it, and he hired a new person, parts of it were missing. Suspicious parts.
Interesting.
Like Congress being able to suspend habeas corpus, which is, So, I mean, like, some weird shit, and they said, it's due to an error.
Which is some very Big Brother stuff right there.
But very specific sections were missing, that
removing history.
Yeah, that were in line with the MAGA politics. Like, I can't remember all of them verbatim. My research is not done for this episode. I promise it will be done for next episode. Tark's all researched up and I'm not. But I thought that was really troubling because
of course.
And I mean, they're always like, whoops, it was a mistake. But it's like they're slowly, like, it's like death by 1,000 cuts. The death of democracy by 1,000 cuts, right? They do a little thing here, they take this little thing there, they change this law here, they declare emergency there, they exploit a loophole here, they close down this oversight thing there. I mean, we're talking about a severely corrupt government. I mean, they have no oversight for financial fraud, there's nothing anymore. They've gotten rid of all of those people who basically would be, I mean, because let's face it, Donald Trump's a felon. And he's a pro-corruption president.
He's actually the only president in United States history that hasn't been impeached twice.
Yeah.
Ever.
I know.
And the second one came after, he incited the riot of January the 6th, which is not surprising.
Yeah.
But yes, that's why, those comedic voices, those satirical voices, those people who have the bravery to speak out about these things are so important, right? And it's kind of amazing, actually, when you step back and look at how far South Park has come from something that was, established as kind of like very juvenile humor, like fart jokes and stuff. And I mean, they set themselves apart right out of the gate, which was very interesting by being the first, adult-oriented animated show that was focused on children, that children were the main characters. So that was an interesting way that they set themselves apart. But I don't think anyone would have seen, in the first, let's say, season to the fourth season or whatever, the first 5 years, I don't think anybody would have anticipated the importance of the social commentary that both Trey Parker and Matt Stone, embody in their writing with South Park.
Yeah, and they're really talented writers. Like, so you had me watch that documentary.
Yes.
What is it called again?
It's called 6 Days to Air. It's a short documentary about the producing of each episode of South Park. It's about 42 minutes, I believe, and I think we can do this. Can we put a link to it in the comments on this episode?
I don't see why not. We can try doing that. I mean, all they're going to do is like send us, I don't know, a cease and desist letter or something, and then we can just take it down. Who cares,
Well, it just redirects people to their project.
I don't see why not. But that's an important thing to mention is that, so this show, well, they said that they managed to squeeze it down further and further. So they did it in 2 weeks, and they did it in a week and a half, and then they did it in just over a week, and then they did it in 6 days, and then they just kept doing it in 6 days. But it benefits the show because it can really keep its finger on the pulse.
It's more topical than most other
so topical
shows. Yeah,
they can see what's happening in the zeitgeist, and they can respond.
Yes,
which is
weekly.
So unique.
Yeah.
For a work of art. I mean, not unique for documentary filmmaking or journalism, but unique for animation.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Satirical animation.
Unique to, a lot of the genres for sure. And, just really speaks to the irrelevancy of the show, right? So,
yeah. I mean,
what's really interesting about that? They started doing that process in season 4, which means they've been doing it since the year 2000. They've been producing episodes that way, 6 days to air, for 25 years now.
Huh.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah. And also, in terms of their relevance, I'm sure all the hardcore South Park fans out there, like ourselves, already know this kind of stuff, or know, that they've garnered numerous awards over the years, right? Including 5 Primetime Emmys and a Peabody Award, amongst a number of other ones as well. So, yeah, the way that everybody knows that the propaganda that the White House is trying to throw their way is completely baseless. And, I also really applaud that just like unblinking bravery that they have to be able to portray the person who's currently their elected leader of their country in a much more true way that the rest of the world perceives him as. You know what I mean? Like, I know that the MAGA people are all like, that's not, whatever. They're like, it's all slander, blah, 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 blah.
Well, it would almost be wasted, but we all know. We all know how damaged Donald Trump is, how needy he is for validation and attention.
Yes.
And how he talks about how tall he says he is. He's 6'4", 6'2". It's funny, though, because when he stands beside guys who are actually that height, he's so much shorter than them. That's really weird. How could he be wrong?
It's an interesting illusion, isn't it? Yeah.
It's really interesting. And I mean, like, so they know, no matter what he says, no matter what the White House, how they spin it, that these punches are landing and they're hurting. Donald Trump hates this.
Yes.
He's humiliated by it, and it infuriates him. And that makes me so happy. Yeah,
me too. Absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more. 100%. Because to anybody who like is observant or, has an objective conscious of people having their basic human rights violated, like, we can all see what's happening. And it's a really interesting thing that they're almost like, okay, there's so many great episodes over the years, of course, and you mentioned the film earlier, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Yes.
That premiered in June of 1999. I remember it essentially, I remember it fondly. I remember it essentially as a musical, and I don't like a lot of musicals. Across the Universe was also awesome, but they're few and far between for me personally.
Yeah.
I know some people love them. One of the things I remember the most is that one of the songs that came out of that film was Blame Canada. You remember that one?
It's not really a real country anyway.
And ever since this trade war stuff started going on, because we know that President Taco Tits is the one who like completely picked this fight, right? Like,
Cheetolini.
Yeah, Cheetolini, one of my favorites as well. And if people don't know history, they probably won't get that. Please go look it up. And, I know that we've said before that this isn't a political show. It's not a political form. So we have to try and, stay not from getting too far off on our,
I think today,
our own opinions or whatever.
It's an impossible thing to avoid if we're talking about this episode.
And
right?
it all ties in,
of course.
Right? So, yeah, that's totally fair for sure. And it's really interesting because, like, there was this episode. Okay, so many episodes over the years that I've loved that have been some of my favorites, right? I don't know if you remember the one from season... Let's see here. Season 19, episode 2, called Where My Country Gone. This one aired in 2015, so it's 10 years ago now.
Is that the one where, like, if you don't like America, you can get out?
They've definitely done a few of those. I'm a little bit country, I'm a little bit rock and roll, I think might be the one you're thinking of.
I think it's the one I'm thinking of, yeah.
But the one entitled Where My Country Gone, this was interesting because they used Mr. Garrison again as that, like, conduit of, like, the Trump persona or whatever, of America's aggression of, like, fuck you if you stay out, and if you don't like it, get out, and whatever. So the really interesting thing was that they had an influx of immigrants from Canada come to South Park.
Okay.
And there's all these Canadian kids in the school all of a sudden, and Mr. Garrison's getting really pissed off because they're disrupting his class and whatever. And everyone is like, they're taking over. It seemed to be that the Canadians in that episode were very much representative of their worries of like Mexican immigrants and other people of color that immigrate from other,
those kind of immigrants.
It's like a proxy, exactly. Yeah. So what was really funny about that was that in that episode, Canada was the one that built the wall to keep them out. And when they found that out, they lost their shit, right? So Garrison leads the charge to go to the wall with a bunch of other rednecks. And they're like, what do you think you're doing? We're Americans. You can't keep us out, right? Like, the hypocrisy of it was just so hilarious, dude. And the guy on top of the wall, right, is like, oh, yeah, hey, buddy, like, you can't come in. Canada's closed right now, And they get so angry. It's hilarious.
Well, it's American exceptionalism, and the world is so fucking tired of this myth of America that may have been true when the culture peaked in like the 60s, 50s.
Yeah, but there still was overt racism and segregation,
and there was still problems.
Right?
So not being wrong, but I think culturally, technologically, it's like the country kind of peaked already, and it's
cultural prowess,
and it's like now it's just a bunch of words. You know what I mean? I mean, they're still one of the most powerful countries in the world. They still rule culture in a way. I mean, half the stuff we watch is American.
In terms of Hollywood production, yeah, of course.
Like there's still significance, but it's like the empire is on decline, and they're all in denial of it. Well, at least not like some of them are. I think a lot of more left-leaning Americans can see.
Yes, there are definitely a lot of people who are very upset with what's happening right now. Of course, there are a number of Democrats in America, millions of them, which we would call liberals here, of course. So yeah, you're right. It's definitely a very divided culture at this point in time. And the thing that was really funny, that I found really funny about that episode, Where My Country Gone, was once Garrison figures out a way to get over to the Canada side, which is that they put him in a drum and they push him over Niagara Falls.
Of course.
So, in real life, he would not have survived that. But then I think
someone actually did survive that. There's a Tragically Hip song about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. My mistake. I feel like the odds are not in your favor.
Oh, no, they wouldn't be in your favor.
Like 9 out of 10 people who try it probably die.
You would probably die.
Yeah,
But
totally.
it isn't an impossible.
Right. If you have the right safety gear or whatever, yeah.
Or you just have luck on your side.
Right. So this was crazy because this was 10 years ago, before, his second term. It was actually even before his first term, because his first term was 2017 to 2021. Taco tits. So in that episode, Where My Country Gone, once Garrison gets into Canada, he realizes that he's in presumably Ottawa, because he goes to find the prime minister, but they call him the president of Canada, which really pisses me off.
Okay.
And I know that Trey Parker and Matt Stone are intelligent enough people that they wouldn't make that mistake. So I assume that they just did it because they feel like their populace is so ignorant that they wouldn't get that we have a prime minister. I don't know.
No, I think they're probably just making fun of us.
It's another shot at Canada.
They're just making fun of us. Look how they draw us.
That totally tracks. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. Because I remember the first time I saw an episode about Canadians, I was super offended, and then I realized, and that was years ago. In the first couple seasons.
Well, what about Terrence and Phillip?
Well, exactly. That was the first intro. Well, I guess Ike was the first introduction of the Canadian characters, but then shortly followed by Terrence and Phillip. But then when I realized that they just don't give a crap and they go after anyone, I was like, oh, okay, that's actually hilarious, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny. And then, so he gets into the city. It's completely abandoned. All the Canadians have left. There's one guy up on a building, and he's like, hey, where'd everybody go, buddy? And then the guy jumps off the building and kills himself. He commits suicide, right? So it gets pretty heavy, which is not uncommon for South Park episodes. So he finally finds the president of Canada.
Okay.
And the weird part was that character looked very much like Donald Trump. He had that attitude of do what I say or go fuck yourself. He was like, suck my balls, buddy. It was his go-to catchphrase, right? And then Garrison, and that's just such an interesting parallel because that was 10 years ago. So by embodying that really, ultra aggressive hard line of I'm the bully, you're going to do what I say.
Yeah.
He put his country into financial destitute and economic ruin, right? And everybody had to leave. And then once Garrison killed him, I'm sure, it's been 10 years. We don't have to worry about spoilers. So he fucks him to death, which is classic classic South Park. But it's also wow, right? It's one of those ones where you're just holy shit, man.
Remember in the documentary, they focused on the episode that they were making in 6 days was the human centipede one.
Yes, that was also
iPad.
a very crazy episode. Yeah.
It was so disturbing and hilarious and making me almost retch, but still hilarious. So many things all at once.
That was one of the hardest ones for me to watch too, because that subject matter is just makes you want to puke. Totally, man.
But the way they had the Japanese guy and then
Kyle,
and then the woman. But Kyle is he's sewn to his butt, and then his butt's sewn to her mouth. So it's two adults, and then a little boy, just suspended like a pipe between them.
Jesus Christ! I never actually thought about it like that, to be honest. Like,
the first things I noticed when I was watching it, I'm like, his feet and hands aren't even touching the ground.
Yeah,
he's just like suspended between them.
I literally never thought about that. But you're right. Yeah,
like probably one of the most.
It kind of takes the violation to another level.
Well, yeah. You know, just when I think I'm not like I've been surprised by everything that South Park can do, they do something new. Like, and I haven't seen all the episodes. I kind of tuned out in about season 14 around when that episode came out.
To do as well,
and I came in and out, and I've definitely seen the Integrity Farms.
I love those storylines. And you know what the funny thing is that Randy is supposed to be Trey's dad. He said in an interview, I saw an interview with him one time, that it's the only voice he doesn't have to think about, because he says as he gets older, and this is probably something that happens to a number of us, which we would, I would prefer not to admit. He says as he gets older, he becomes more and more like his dad. So it's like the one voice that he doesn't have to think about. He just goes and does it. Isn't that hilarious?
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
I think it's also kind of funny how they go from being like working class, lower middle class, to being like really wealthy because of the weed farm.
Yeah.
And their like life completely changes.
Yeah.
They're like the rich family in town. They never really had a rich family in the show before.
Token's family was the rich family.
That's right. He was the rich family.
Because there's an episode where they put out a call to the other like rich black people they know, and a bunch of celebrities moved to South Park, like Snoop Dogg and Cuba Gooding Jr. and whatever. Like, yeah, it was great,
so good.
But totally right.
Sweet.
So the crazy thing about that parallel, though, from 10 years ago, is that character as the Canadian president, we all know Prime Minister, very much seemed to represent that same kind of character, like that same kind of person. And the parallels that you're seeing now to what's happening in the United States versus what they showed in that episode of like people wanting to leave because of like, extreme policies and like administrations, crossing, overstepping their authority and like violating people's human rights, and then throwing the economy into, almost like an implosion. It's interesting when you look at it now, because obviously the White House administration and all the MAGA supporters would, completely like passionately refute any of these arguments. But
you can't make fun of great leader.
Right.
You can't even get in the country if they see that you've been making fun of great leader on your social media. They'll kick you out.
Right.
They'll like deny you at the airport if the TSA guy is like a MAGA person.
Yeah.
It's pretty mental.
I'm not going to the States anytime soon, that's for sure.
Unfortunately, no.
But that's what's happening to them, too, right? That's the thing, is that those people that are supporting this person still would refute those points, but they are putting the country into economic collapse, like kind of right before our eyes with the whole, like, I'm going to be the bully on the playground thing.
Have you seen some of these?
It's like a self-imposed third world country. If it keeps going this way for his whole term, how are they going to turn that around? Anyway, whatever. It's a whole different topic. But
have
like,
you seen these guys, these commentators will go and they'll talk to MAGA people. They're totally delusional. They're living like a parallel reality that has nothing to do with facts. It doesn't have anything to do with agreed upon truths or shared anything, which have been the cornerstone of civilization up to this point. So like, what is like
democratic debate of like, let's exchange viewpoints instead of arguing about stuff, or villainizing the other group of people.
So what does the future look like when the truth is subjective?
Yes.
And we don't have agreed upon truths? Is that absolute fucking chaos? I mean, it is. It is chaos. Look what's happening, right?
Well, I think the danger, you're right, it is chaos, because look what's happening. There's the protests and the pushback in LA and other, cities across the country. But obviously it seems like that danger of the slippery slope is, potentially sliding into a state that's an authoritarian state like Russia or North Korea, where like there's censorship and the citizens are only presented with one narrative, right? And then there's no way to research other points of view, which could be incredibly dangerous. So it's if you're right, there's a lot of great people in the States who are pushing back, and there are some great YouTube commentators or content creators like Keith Edwards that you can follow. There's a bunch of other guys like Dean Withers. There's a lot of people that you can check out for more information if you are concerned about that stuff. But again, it just reiterates why these voices like Trey Parker and Matt Stone and the bravery they have to call bullshit when they see it are so important, right?
No, absolutely. And I think that these guys need to be venerated and celebrated because they're doing God's work, in my opinion.
Dude, they're like political heroes.
They're political heroes, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's not just revolutions. The revolution doesn't happen on the street. It happens culturally as well. And
famous quote: "The revolution will not be televised." Right?
Exactly. That was.
You have to be paying attention, people. That's the.
But you know,
the lines message.
The good thing to remember, it's not totally dystopian because I think if I remember, the percentage is over half. I can't remember the precise percentage, but it's over half the country don't like Donald Trump. Don't support him. I think it's about 47% roughly of the country is MAGA. So that is encouraging. Over half of them, the United States, don't dig the orange one.
They did elect him for a second term, which is obviously very concerning. But yes, it seems that with the way that the administration has been conducting themselves since that second inauguration, it seems like they've lost a lot of that support, which is definitely encouraging for sure. It kind of restores your faith in humanity to a certain extent.
So we I guess have to stay tuned to see if they're going to continue this sort of like cavalcade of like political satire, sorry for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I would imagine that it's going to be a running theme for this new season. I'm really curious to see that as well, if we're going to see more of that Trump character.
Well, they're doing ICE in the second episode, so like I'm wondering if they're just going to keep going.
There's all
kinds of material there, so
yes. And again, because their ability to stay so topical, they can really be on top of those issues, of those conversations.
My American brothers and sisters, we love you. We've got your back, okay? And we know the orange one is making your lives terrible. So, remember up here in Canada, we were supporting you, okay?
We're also really pissed off, though, too. I think a lot of people don't, from what I've read, a lot of Americans don't seem to understand how upset Canadians are by the 51st state rhetoric, all the threats that the Trump administration has lobbed our way since they took office. Obviously I'm a little biased as a Canadian citizen. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed, a lot of things that need to be fixed, but obviously we would prefer for the relationship to somehow be able to get back to the way it was. That would be best for everybody, of course.
Because one of the things that someone else pointed out to me, just in closing, is that the Red Scare, ruined people's lives. The communist scare.
Yeah.
And it was intense and it took over politics, but then it eventually went away. Like the immune system of the American political system pushed it out. And they evolved and things got better. And I'd like to think that the same thing is going to happen with this weird MAGA movement and this sort of shift towards authoritarianism.
I would like to think so too, bro.
The sad thing is, though, is that it's the canary in the coal mine for when countries are in trouble. They start going down this path, right, of
it's classic.
Blindly follow great leader, leaning towards authoritarianism.
Classic distraction, classic separate the people. This is your enemy, make a scapegoat, and then they're easier to control. Yeah, we've seen this play before, for sure. Throughout history, this is not a new tactic, for sure.
And, it's really important to point out, and I can't stand when people will say it's obtuse to compare the MAGA movement, especially the higher up people from like the Heritage Foundation, weird ultra conservative people, to Nazis.
Yeah.
But they are behaving just like the Nazis did. Yep. Now, I'm not talking about World War II Nazis invading Europe Nazis. I'm talking about the Nazi Party. So distrust in the press.
Yeah.
Go after the judicial system.
Yeah.
Use political mechanisms to go after your enemies.
Yeah.
Right?
Political discourse and upheaval.
Create a scapegoat for all of the social ills, the Jews, right? It's all the same stuff. Except
or in
now,
this case, it's basically any group of immigrant.
Exactly. So the immigrants are like the Jews were it's exactly the same thing the Nazis did in Germany in the 10 years leading up to when they actually started invading other countries, which is disturbing because what is the next chapter here? I don't want to be alarmist.
Dude, no,
but,
I know. And we are definitely into a political sphere now, for sure. But
it was impossible to avoid.
Yeah, that's fair because it's all so tied together to the subject material that they were presenting, right? And the premiere, yeah. And everyone's paying attention. Like, obviously, we're watching history unfold in front of our eyes. And I agree with you, man. Like, it is yeah, it is really concerning. It is really disturbing when you start silencing people's voices and taking away their human rights. There's like, and you know, the really crazy thing is that there's a lot of programs where, you know, there's this one in the States called Jubilee, and people have been talking about like, should this even be a platform or not? Because now you're giving a platform to these people. They're getting, the argument is they're getting more eyes than they might normally get because you're kind of amalgamating these things. But it's also important for that accountability. You know what I mean? So the last one I watched was this very intelligent guy in the States who's a professor of some, you know what, I shouldn't even talk about him without having written down his details of his name, his birth, you know, all that kind of stuff. Because I know he's an American citizen, but his family's from the Middle East. I believe he said his parents were like from Egypt or something.
Okay.
So it amazes me, you know, the level of self-control that somebody can have sitting in a room full of MAGA supporters on the other side of the table of so much hatred and so much like volatility and anger. And the crazy thing was the guy that he was talking to, luckily this dude got fired. You guys have probably heard this story because it's going around in America, because he outed himself as a fascist on this segment of YouTube. And the guy
watched it.
Yeah, and the guy said, right, his name is Connor or something. Of course,
and he was laughing about it, like he was proud about it.
Yes, it was very disturbing material. Keith Edwards had a segment on it, which is where I learned about this story. And yeah, man, it was horrific. It really was. And the fact that, you know, they become so emboldened, so embrazened by the fact that like Trump is the poster child of this movement of like, you know, hatred.
About that guy though, like I really felt like when I was watching that video, because it was like one of those things where all these conservative people are debating the one liberal guy who was the Middle Eastern immigrant.
Yeah.
He was actually,
his parents were immigrants. He's an American citizen.
No, he's a landed immigrant. He's from England originally. He had an accent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I wish I'd remembered his name, but I felt like when that guy was kind of laughing and smiling, it was like he was getting...
It was also the creepiest laugh ever.
Well, this is why I'm saying this, is that it didn't seem like he was like, oh, I'm winning the debate or I'm declaring who I really am. It was more like he was using, but I am a fascist, as a sort of gotcha moment. And then he was getting this incredible like thrill of gotchaing him with this, because it's not something you would expect someone to say. Right? It's really surprising. Right. It's a curveball. It's out of left field.
Actual gotcha moment was the guy who self-identifies as a fascist.
Yeah.
But in his perspective, he felt like he got the other guy.
Yeah, it's like he's owning him and throwing him a curveball and winning.
Right.
Because I'm a fascist. What are you going to say to that? I'm a fascist. You can't retort to that. You can't argue that. It's like, I feel like it was more about that.
Ignorant, hate-filled people sitting around in the circle all applaud him too. So that does definitely reinforce the argument. Yeah.
But I'm glad that he lost his job.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy, exactly. But anyways, you know, I just hope that, like I said, that these amazingly talented guys like Trey Parker and Matt Stone and their team keep making this amazing show that, like I said, is laser-guided satire. It's necessary. It's important. We need this in society right now.
Absolutely.
We need this comedic, satirical voice.
Yeah,
more than ever.
When groups of people are being villainized and victimized, it is more important than ever that there are people brave enough to stand up and speak out against that stuff. 100%.
So keep it up. Keep it up, Matt. Keep it up, Trey.
Yeah, we love you guys.
Absolutely. We love you guys.
Love to meet you sometime. Love to talk to you guys sometime. Been big fans for a lot of years.
Might have you on the show eventually one day. I mean,
dude,
why not?
That would be so amazing.
It would be sweet.
So yeah, as if they could make time for. Yeah, that'd be
so sweet.
That'd be so sweet. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's another episode of Popcorn and Protagonists. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll catch you next time. Till then, take care, buddies.
Bye.